The question that I'm really interested in is looking at when children encounter new information. So say that children see some new object that they've never seen before. How do they know, and they see that it has some property. So they say they find out it's magnetic. It does something interesting. It can pick things up magnetically. How do they know whether this is something that is specific or special or unique about this individual object, or whether this is something about sort of this kind of object that people have created for a certain purpose, right? So, and the issue is that you can never really tell just from one instance of seeing this new function, this new property of this object, whether or not this is something sort of specific and unique, or something kind of generalizable and sort of, we call it generic, so something that sort of applies broadly, and you expect that when you encounter new things like this in the future, they'll have the same property, right? So this is sort of a problem that children face sort of as they're learning about the world and learning about the kinds of things in the world. The question is, how do children figure out that problem? So one way that we know is that children can pay attention to the language that people use. So if people say, oh, this is a blicket, so they say this is a new kind of thing called a blicket, and they say blickets are magnetic, we know then children infer, they reason that this is something about this kind of thing, and it has this property, and if I see another blicket someday, it will also be magnetic. But in a lot of cases, children are observing things in the world, but might not have people telling them about them. So the question is, do children have other ways of kind of tackling this problem? And one idea is that children might pay attention to whether this new information is being communicated to them. So if I'm demonstrating that this object has this property, that might be informative as to whether this is actually something generic, something important, something generalizable. So that's the idea that I've been working on, and it turns out that by about age 4, children are using this this understanding that someone is demonstrating information for them to make a really strong, they make a really strong expectation that this is the kind of property that's going to generalize to other similar objects. Whereas if they simply observe someone use an object in a particular way, they think, okay, maybe this is a property of this sort of other members of this category, this kind of thing, but maybe not. They're sort of more tentative in their learning. And recently we've been trying to understand the development of this sort of learning mechanism, this way of approaching this problem. Because it looks like very young infants are sensitive to cues, so having someone look at them, so make eye contact with them or say their name, and they're sensitive to whether sort of information is being communicated. But they have to learn over the first years of life how to apply that sort of in an interaction with an adult. And so I think that's really the interesting question, is how do children learn when are the appropriate situations in which I use this kind of demonstration, and when do I not?